we're talking about ChatGPT, and you mentioned GPT-4. There are dozens of large learning models, right? And so the question's kind of twofold. One is, I'd be interested in hearing the tools that you all are using within your organizations or seeing within your client base. And then secondly, Cody, to your point, one of those tools is AutoGPT. And to the extent that one of you feels comfortable talking about the difference between GPT 3.5 or 4 versus AutoGPT, might be interesting for the crowd to understand what's different.
Yep, sure. So let me start with the tools and the governance component, and then we can all continue to talk. So from the tools perspective, in the last about 7-8 months, we have been practicing Microsoft OpenAI services, right? And there's a particular reason why we are only using the GPT 3.5, GPT 4, GPT 4, 32K models through Microsoft compared to going to OpenAI directly, right? What Microsoft does it to us through our enterprise contract, at a subscription level, you can able to say, hey, do not log my prompt and the responses, right? The second thing with Microsoft, you can able to also request for, I do not want to do any type of human review of the responses and the answers provided, right? Although Microsoft is redlining very clearly that they will still log the prompt and the responses for 30 days for any type of abuse monitoring. However, that abuse monitoring log data is not utilized for something called zero-shot learning is what they call. That means it's a technique that's used in the modeling space that any type of prompt or responses that you have utilized it are not utilized for retraining that model in an automated fashion, right? So Microsoft OpenAI services has provided these features to us so that you can able to protect your business. In case of accidentally somebody took your line of source code or your intellectual property, typed it into the chat window and say, hey, explain this for me, or convert this into something, or write a white paper on this particular topic, you can still protect your business by doing it that way, right? So that's why we're using Microsoft OpenAI. The other thing, that's the tool that we are utilizing it internally. We're also exploring some third parties as well, both from an open source perspective as well as from enterprise third parties who also has large language models, right? So Cody touched the topic about hallucination. Anytime when you work with a large language model, right, the foundation of the language model is predictability of the next word, right? So why large language models were built? Because if you have a sentence with 3 words, the large language model is about predicting the 4th word. And how is that 4th word in relevance to the context of the sentence, right? Once you have the 4th word, then it adds the 5th word, 6th word, and so on. That is how large language model actually writes. But once it writes an entire paragraph, does it really have the context of what was the original question asked? That's what the GPT models have really brought the value into it, the quality of the training data and such, right? So tools perspective, Microsoft OpenAI, we do utilize third-party models, enterprise-based third-party models as well. And then the open source GPT models as well, GPT-like models, I would say. There are LLM-based models. My recommendation is that use the model that's for right purpose. Don't limit yourself to, I'm going to use this model or versus another model. I would say build an interface like a ChatGPT, like an easy-to-use interface, but let the interface pick the model for the right purpose that you're wanting to use, right? So that would be my recommendation. That's where we are gearing towards. If you want to produce a market research, use one type of model. If you want to augment your data with a particular model and you want to train the model, then utilize a different model for different purposes, right? Governing purposes always disable unless you have interest to retrain the model, for the public use. If any of you want to do that.
Yeah, that was actually super helpful for me because we are still using OpenAI directly, and it is a hassle to manage the billing and stuff. So we've actually been working on spinning up Microsoft. So that's a little bit of highly pragmatic discussion. So that's super helpful. In terms of tools we're using, we're using the OpenAI suite of models. We've likewise experimented with some of the open source models. We've also been using Copilot in our development environments because I think it's important for all of our people to get a sense of what is available and so that they can think about what we want to deliver to our customers, right? Because one of our products, our core sort of foundational product is an IDE for quality engineers. I want my engineers building that to be thinking about like, well, how do if this makes me more effective, what would make those engineers more effective? I think that there probably will be a push for, not having everything run through the big players, OpenAI, Microsoft, but also having people run their own models internally. I think that seems more reasonable now. We were talking about like LoRa and stuff like that. I think that seems like a more reasonable approach than might have been a month ago.